Show me your heart. I know that it's beating. Tell me that you love me too. So I know your heart is true. 'Cause I need some proof of love. 'Cause I need some proof of love. 'Cause I need some proof of love. I want to talk about Celsius Network. They're doing a really cool thing, trying to revolutionize the way we think about financial services. Basically, they're offering their users up to 10% annual interest on their crypto deposit, and there's no secret to how they're doing it. That 10% comes from them sharing 80% of their profits, rather than the minuscule percentage the banks share. Celsius is giving our users $10 in BTC when they make a deposit of $200 or more in crypto or stablecoins when they use promo code LOVE. Go to Celsius.network. This episode of Proof of Love is brought to you by Vaultoro. Vaultoro is a gold hedging solution for the crypto community. One of the challenges of investing in cryptocurrencies is dealing with volatility. Keeping a diversified portfolio is a key to healthy returns. I keep about 10% of my crypto assets in gold using Vaultoro. Vaultoro allows me to open a gold wallet in seconds where I can trade easily with cryptos and gold. What I like about using Vaultoro instead of Tether is that the gold in my Vaultoro wallet is insured, audited, vaulted in Switzerland, and unlike fiat money, gold has increased in value for the last 20 years. Visit Vaultoro.gold/Tatiana today and get zero trading fees for the first 3 months. That is vault, like a gold vault, and oro, which is Spanish for gold. Vaultoro, ole! Hello, everybody, and welcome to Proof of Love. Today, we're doing a Q&A show with Stephanie Murphy and I. Lauren is on vacation, and thank you to our sponsor at Vaultoro. Please support them. They also have a Bank to the Future campaign going on. You can check that out as well. I don't know if we will release this in time for that, but check that out if you're interested in gold and Bitcoin. Steph,
well, Vaultoro, ole.
Oh,
wait,
God.
no, I need more excitement on that. Vaultoro, ole.
Okay, yes, that was very good. I would want to sync it, but to be honest, when you're doing remote location things, singing or speaking in choir is not very easy to do. So
true.
We have a lot of questions today, and I think that they're all sort of focused around, you know, how do you have a long-term relationship and what's realistic to expect out of your partner? We've gotten a lot of different questions sort of picking through that kind of whole thought process, you know, trying to see what's valuable, what isn't. And while it's a personal decision, we do have some opinions on it. I don't know. Steph, you ready to rock?
Absolutely. Should we read the first question here?
Sure, go for it.
All right. Our first question is, in a relationship, is it realistic to expect one person to meet all of your needs? Does it depend on what your expectations are? What do you think about this? Do you think it's possible to get your needs met by one person? I know a lot of people struggling with this question right now.
So I think that when you're single, people are annoying and they want to give you a lot of advice. And one of the things that they say to you is, you shouldn't want everything. You should lower your expectations. You're like, thanks a lot. I personally think that the person that I'm going to spend the rest of my life with is going to be a person that is aligned with me mentally, spiritually, sexually, and like on a pragmatic level, right? I think that there's some basic components, and maybe there will be some other things that they don't give me fulfillment on. But on the main things, I think that they are important to have all those needs met. Maybe, you know, you're flexible on their looks or you're flexible on certain little smaller things, but the main components, I think that you need to be aligned with that person, especially because you're going to grow, you're going to change, you're going to turn into maybe somebody else. So some core values are really important to have in common with that person. And I think that includes statistics. So, you know, looks, intelligence, financial compatibility, like family compatibility. I think that those things are important to get right early on.
What do you mean by statistics? Is that like their relationship resume or like how they look on paper, basically?
No, all of those things that I just listed. So, you know, like, okay, are they age appropriate? Will our families get along? Are they, you know, relatively the same intelligence as me? You know, kind of different kinds of things that you think about that are almost matters of practicality.
Yeah.
So sexual compatibility, I mean, that's like a little bit less of a mathematical equation. But I mean, people to a certain extent, they are kind of checking off certain boxes, or at least the essential things that are important to you. So I think it's important. Family is important. Religion isn't as important to me. But, I think that being able to have an intelligent conversation with the person that you're with, and even, I mean, I would go so far as to be politically aligned with them, just because that's such an important part of my life.
It often reflects other underlying values as well.
That's a good point, for sure. And somebody who's kind of given that stuff some thought, even if we are not necessarily aligned, would be important. But that's definitely not the most. So, some people might compare loyalty versus mental stimulation, right? Somebody who's, normal intelligence, you guys are normal in terms of talking, you don't think that they're stupid, but maybe you don't have that intellectual spark. Can that be replaced with something like loyalty, which I think is kind of hard to find these days? Family values, people talk about them, sometimes they don't, but I mean, people don't really seem to want to get settled down very much in urban areas, at least. People are pushing that out further and further, and that's probably because people are more affluent. They're not necessarily as dependent on a family in order to live their life. What do you think? That was a lot to unpack.
Yeah, lots of thoughts. I mean, about the people not wanting to settle down. I mean, you live in New York City, so that's pretty much like famous for, commitment phobic people who don't want to settle down. And it's got a reputation as a tough dating market, and so I know you've had, some adventures in finding love in New York, and I'm sure people give you a lot of advice, some of which is helpful and some is not. But I was just thinking about what you said at the beginning, like people give you this advice to basically settle or compromise on what you're looking for. And that's interesting because I'm thinking about it, and you hear conflicting stuff when you're dating, right? You hear on one hand that you should be flexible and take what you can get, basically, and settle. And then
or
you
let
hear
it go and then it'll find you, or you have to visualize it. The worst is either you're trying too hard or you're not trying hard enough. And the advice is complete. I think it's gotten to the point where I'm just not listening to any advice anymore.
Well,
Which
yeah,
makes
that
it
makes
kind
sense
of
because
ironic that we're doing the show.
well, it sounds like there's a lot of contradictions. And I've heard this from other single people too, that it's like you get this contradicting advice. On one hand, they say, don't settle. And then on the other hand, they say, well, be flexible and compromise. Relationships and marriage are about compromise. And then on the other hand, they say, yeah, but you're worth it. And you shouldn't, go for someone that you're not completely happy with. So I guess it's about finding a balance between those two extremes, but that can often feel really difficult, especially if you haven't been successful at doing that so far. You're like, okay, well, where does that leave me? um, but, I was thinking about in my life, I guess I've pretty much always been someone who knows what I want, I would say, not just in love, but in other areas of life.
Yeah,
And
I agree with that. That resonates with me.
yeah, I think you are too. And, you know, I would say at each different stage or era of my life, I've had an idea of the type of partner I was looking for. And usually the partners I found were mostly matching what I was looking for, but they had like one wild card in there that was different.
Yeah,
So
that can definitely kill the deal though.
it,
You need the basic components.
it could kill the deal, but in those cases, I didn't let it kill the deal. I was open to those people, even though, something was amiss, as far as not lining up with what I was imagining as the perfect ideal match for me. And, I'm glad I gave them a chance because it worked out. And those issues, they weren't major deal breaker. Well, I don't know.
Well,
I
you're
guess
not with those people.
no, I'm
So there
not with
must have
those
broken some
people.
kind of a deal.
I'm not with those people, but I'm glad that I was with them, and I'm glad that I gave them a chance. I'm glad that I didn't say, oh, you're a smoker. I'm not even gonna, get to know you because I could never be with a smoker. Ultimately that relationship didn't work out, of course, but, I'm glad that I had it because it was a relationship and not just something that fizzled out at the very beginning and I never got to know that person. I could have said, oh, I would never date a bald man. but I'm glad I did. And I gave him a chance and I ended up being attracted to him. So, those kinds of things, right? Or I could
Okay,
never,
that's true. Yeah, but
yeah,
I think, well, the thing is though is that you're not online dating, right? And online dating is it's
I have online
very,
dated in the past.
you
Yeah.
know,
And those are hard because, it starts to, I think you start to lose your empathy after a while, especially if you're just swiping through lots of people. Like, it just looks like they're like a profile, right? And people can portray
they
so much
are.
bullshit in their profiles, or sorry, BS. People can portray so much BS in their profiles. And, it goes on with everyone on both sides, men, women, other genders. People are often portraying a front online. And so it can be okay for like a mixer, to try to like meet some potential matches, but you really have to meet them in person and get to know them, I think, to see if you're really compatible. And so then that leaves you with the problem of, do you rule someone out just because they have something listed on their online profile that you don't like? Is that going to be a deal breaker? And how can you tell from just seeing them online? That
Oh,
was
I
always
have
the,
so much to say on this.
okay, tell me.
Okay, so I'm known for being very ruthless because the way that I look at it, right, it's not like Match and those older dating sites, they had more of a personality component, which I think is super important. I think that there's lots of good looking guys, but you can tell that they're douchebags, basically, based on what they're writing. There are certain pet peeves that I don't like. Like there's like 40-year-old guys on there that's like, what are you looking for? Don't know yet. It's like, man, if you're 40 years old and you don't know what you're looking for, like you have other problems. Sorry, that was like a random thing. But I think that what people write is important. And I think that they do hit some basic things, but I don't really like trying to chat with people in there. It's hard to tell where you should put your time because, you have to get ready. You have to go there. Even if you just meet the person for half an hour, a cup of coffee, by the time you're done with your makeup and your travel, you've invested at least 2 hours plus the time that you spend with that person. You don't want to just want to meet up with anybody, but I think the chats are kind of lame. And I think that I definitely have probably, swiped left on people that in person I may have actually liked. But it does make you feel like there's an infinite amount of choices. It feels like you're at an ice cream bar and you're like, I want a little bit of that. I want this. I want this. And to a certain extent, you can actually match that. But I don't know. And then you have just the conversations are really lame. So I'm a fan of meeting in person if you can.
Yeah, but then it sounds like you're saying it can be hard to determine if this person is worth investing the time to actually meet in person and to continue to invest in that relationship.
Yeah, I feel like it's too flat in there, and text
Online,
is
you mean?
really hard. Yeah, exactly. When you're dating somebody online or when you're even talking to them online, I don't know. I just feel like people don't even know how to hold a conversation. They're like, hey, what's up? And then like nothing else happens. And I try and write things that are engaging and whatnot, but I don't find that people, I don't know. I think dating online is really lame, but I don't know where you go to meet people. I feel like we've veered off into just randomly complaining about online dating. But
Well,
see,
okay, so let's
that's
get
a good counter because here's the thing, right? If I have a friend and she likes this guy and he's not meeting all of her needs, but the alternative is going out onto the internet dating scene and it's kind of abysmal in certain ways. I don't know. It's hard. How do you know which one you're supposed to go with? How do you know that you
right.
should know when to fold them or whatever? Know when to hold them.
Know when to hold them and when to fold them.
Yeah, or like, and also, it's not necessarily directly correlated to your attractiveness as a female or a male. I know lots of people who are single, attractive, really have their stuff together, and they're just single and they can't meet somebody that they're liking. So I don't know. It's such a weird situation because the market value is a little bit skewed. You don't necessarily know what it is.
Well, I think it's kind of a complex soul searching kind of thing, right? What are your standards and what are your expectations when it comes to relationships, right? And how flexible are you on getting to know someone who's potentially, outside of what you think you're looking for, but maybe once you get to know them, you'll say, oh, actually, I like this person. Maybe I didn't know I was looking for someone like this, but yeah, they satisfy me, right? And so you have to think about would you rather spend more time alone or outside of relationships and have sort of tighter, higher standards that maybe you won't find as many people who meet all your criteria? Or would you be open to being a little bit more flexible on at least some of your standards or the things that you're ideally looking for in order to try out more relationships and see if they actually do fit you? That's
I
one
think
thing.
that
Mhm.
you need to have a lot of spare time if you feel like doing that. I don't feel like that's valuable to me. People are like, oh, you should just go out with anybody. And I'm like, why? I have things that I like to do with my time. And when I'm traveling, I don't get to do them. So right now, I'm in New York and theoretically I should be going out there like, hey, what's up, everybody? Ow! But I don't want to do any of that because I'm working on different things at home. So I don't
Well,
know.
it's
It's a
priorities, right?
balance.
Dating is something, if you're going to do the dating process where you date a lot of people, where you maybe do a challenge where you go on 30 dates in 30 days or 100 dates in 100 days or something like that,
What? Who's got
you
time
know,
for that?
well,
I think you'd get
you
fat from
don't,
that
but
too.
some people do. I mean, for some people, their most important priority in life is finding a mate. And so they invest their time into doing that. And yeah, I mean, it seems like kind of arduous, right? If you're thinking about it as someone who has a life, right? And you're also in dating, you're often encouraged to not always be so available, right? To actually have stuff that you're busy with and to have a life, so you're not just sitting by the phone waiting for someone to call you, right, or text you. But I mean, if it's your most important priority to find a mate, then make that your job, basically.
Ugh, that seems so annoying. And like, why should somebody have to do that? For example, I go out and I see a ton of people all the time, and my eye is good. I can spot what I like. Now, I don't like everything. I am admittedly picky, but when I see what I want, I know what it is. So I have scanned lots of rooms with this magical eye, and I have not found something. So, what am I supposed to do? This is what I find frustrating about trying to date in person is finding time to do social activities that involve others. For example, I really like to go hiking, but frankly, I like going hiking with my girlfriends and we catch up and we have, some sort of an engagement. I guess I could join a hiking club. But most people, if they want to meet somebody, they have to go to a bar. And I don't want to drink. I don't want to yell over loud music. And I feel like people don't really talk to each other until they're wasted, in which case that's not going to be very interesting for me if I'm not drinking. And also, you have to stay out late and look ugly the next day because you didn't get enough sleep. And I like my night rituals and stuff.
Yeah,
So
I
I don't
hear you
know.
about all of those problems with bars. And myself, I do not drink alcohol, and it's not for religious reasons, and it's not because I'm an alcoholic. It's just because I just never liked it and I never got into it, and it always felt better to me to avoid it. And
I
no,
can go and not drink at a bar though. That's a skill set. You've already mastered that one. But I do think
yeah,
that
I
it's
can always
possible.
go and have a club soda with a lime or something, but like like you said, it does require kind of staying out late, and then you're meeting people who have an interest in alcohol, and that's not necessarily aligned with my interests. And so
Hmm.
what I've wanted to do is, yes, go on those hiking dates, and you're going to meet the people who are avoiding bars for a reason, right? Because they're either religious or they're a recovering alcoholic or they just don't like it, kind of like me, or they're prioritizing their health, they're trying to get healthy. Whatever the reason, you're going to meet those people outside of a bar. So if you go to a bar, you're going to meet the people who are interested in drinking, and maybe that's not what you're looking for.
Yeah, I agree. You know what I thought was cool for a while? I did this kickball class and I never met anybody there, but it was a good thing because you can join and kickball's kind of ridiculous.
Oh, that
You
sounds
could drop
great.
in. Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. And then afterward, you would go out with everybody. And I guess that's when everybody gets drunk, but not everybody does. And also, I mean, I'm not like the most innocent person. I definitely get drunk sometimes. So, but overall, I'm not really looking to cultivate that. Um, so what do you think? So is it at the end like a personal decision? Can you get all the things? When do you fold them?
Well, I will say that I think everybody has to answer that question on their own. And, as we suggested earlier, think about what you're willing to tolerate. Are you willing to tolerate more time alone or outside of a relationship and sort of more ruling people out or having stricter standards? Or are you willing to be a little bit more flexible and try out people who may not meet all of your criteria, but at least you get to try it out and try being in a relationship with them and see how it works? Right?
Yeah.
That's the most important thing to think about, I guess. And also, I would say, think about what you want, right? Think about your ideal mate and visualize what do they do. Build a character sketch of them, right? If you really are interested in meeting someone who's adventurous and athletic, maybe you want to go try that rock climbing class, or maybe you want to go to that kickball class.
I don't know how adventurous or athletic you have to be. I feel like the people that go to play kickball are kind of like sloths, which is why I wanted to go there. But yeah, okay.
Well,
it's not like the
okay.
most sportsman-like activity.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying build a character sketch of your ideal partner and think about where they might hang out or what activities they might like to do. And then you're going to go to those activities. It's hopefully something that you also enjoy. And then you're going to, meet people who are also interested in those same things. That's my best advice. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think of people that didn't meet the criteria and they're kind of like blah because now they're stuck with somebody. But then I think of you and your match, and I think of Lauren and her match. And then I think, you know what? People should hold out. I don't know. I personally find that I get attacked. Like, if I'm dating somebody, I like them. There's not really much of a meh feeling. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I find it to be very distracting to be dating people that are not necessarily, I don't know, unless you meet them in a natural way, which I think is good. Maybe friendship is a good way to start any kind of relationship. I feel like that's a little bit boring, especially because, you want to look at the person and be like, I don't want to be your friend, honey. But
well, that's an individual thing. Some people really need that friendship connection at first to feel comfortable enough to become sexually attracted. I am one of those people. All of my relationships have started out as friendships. And
really? Wait. Do you ever see somebody and you're like, I want to have sex with them right now? And then if they said, hey, baby, you up for this? And you would say no?
I did that when I was a teenager and in my 20s sometimes, and it didn't work out well for me.
Fair enough. What if it didn't have to work out? Like if it just had to be like a one thing, like you didn't have to be like, I'm going to marry this person afterward or whatever.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's one thing I learned is that casual hookups do not work well for me. It took me too long to figure that out, but they don't work well. I end up bonding with the person, in some cases quite inappropriately, and it causes a lot of pain and stress in my life, and I bond with people I shouldn't be bonding with, and then it causes pain and heartbreak. And so years ago, I learned that, I realized that, and I said, okay, I'm just not going to do that anymore, and I stopped, and I've been a lot happier.
I think that that's good that you developed that self-control. I think that overall people, and I'm not saying this in a judgmental way because I've definitely fallen into this category, but people have sex really soon and really quickly. And I think it's very difficult to not necessarily do that because especially if you're dating somebody, there might be some alcohol involved and you're just like, what,
I think there's cultural pressure too. Like there's this idea that if you haven't had sex with someone by the third date, then it's not going to work. And that's not the time scale everybody moves on. Some people need more time to get to know someone. And so I guess I would say if you're one of those people who's like, I'm seeing potential with this person, but I don't want this pressure of we have to have sex in 3 dates. Just explain to them like, hey, look, I like you. I'm connecting with you, but it takes me a while to develop a sexual comfort with somebody. And so I would like to take things slow and continue to get to know each other. And the more emotional intimacy we can develop, the more it's going to move me in the direction of wanting physical intimacy.
I think some people will run. Way of expressing it, but I feel like that's really bold. I don't know anybody who talks like that except for you.
Well, I guess I can only speak.
That's a good thing. You're doing a great job expressing that, but I think that unfortunately people are a little bit limited in their ability to have these adult conversations. But if that's, it depends on what you're looking for, right? Preferably somebody who can hear something like that and be like, okay, yeah, that's cool. You know what I mean? Because that doesn't sound very hot. That's not like maybe if you said, hey, this is going to be worth the wait, ooh la la, or something, and then you kind of threw in that part. Because I
Well,
don't know, it makes me, I would think that person's a little bit frigid. Or I wouldn't always, but maybe
well, this
a
is
little
why
bit.
we're not dating each other, Tatiana.
Okay. Well, but if you were like, don't you think a guy has an expectation that you're supposed to be like hot and heavy?
Well, it
That's
wouldn't always
part of
be
it,
a
I guess.
guy for me. I would
I
date
know.
more than just guys. But, for me, if I heard someone say what I just said, hey, I really like you, but for me, it takes a while for sexual attraction or comfort with sexual expression to come into place. Can we keep developing emotional intimacy? And that's going to move me in the direction of physical intimacy later. If someone said that to me, I would be like, yeah, that's great. Thank you so much for your honesty. That would be a
Yeah, but you're
huge turn
you.
on for me.
Yes, of course, because you're dating yourself. Like I'm just saying, like in the I don't know. I think that there is a lot of pressure for women to have a certain I don't know, sex card, I guess. That and the way that you're kind of revealing it is more sincere than I think what most people are used to. I think it's lovely.
Well, okay,
But
but
I
there,
don't know if
I
it's that
might be a
real.
weirdo, but there are
No,
there are
not in a
people
bad
like me out
way.
there.
Oh yeah, no, and I think that some people could, but I think in general, day to day, I think having that conversation for some people might be a little bit more difficult than the way that you just make it sound so easy and articulate.
Okay, well, I give anyone who's listening permission to copy what I just said. If that feels
Word for
true to
word.
you, just ape it, just take it and use it, right? It's open source.
Very good. So
But I want to get back to the original question, which was, is it realistic to expect one person to meet all of your needs? And we were kind of talking about standards and how picky should you be, or how loose should you be in trying out different relationships with different people. I think a conversation about this in relation to my own history would not be complete if I didn't say that for many, many years, I believed that it was not possible for one person to meet all of your needs. I really believed this. I thought that, everybody has something that's kind of lacking. You might find the perfect partner, but they don't like to play tennis with you. And then you have to play tennis with someone else, right? Or, you might find the perfect partner and they like to dance and you don't. So you have to let them dance with somebody else. And, I put this into practice in my relationship life. But the result of that was kind of like, it felt very compartmentalized. It felt like I was relying on certain people to fulfill specific roles. And then that was like all the depth that they had. And I didn't like that, and I have changed my mind about this. I used to think that, okay, on one hand, I do believe that the cultural idea that a lot of us grow up with of the one, right? That there's one person out there who is your perfect match, who is going to meet literally all of your needs and be your everything and is like the missing puzzle piece to complete you. That is BS. That's damaging, because if you put all of your expectations on meeting the one someday and it's just going to happen like a magical fairy tale, you're going to meet your prince or your princess, that can set you up for disappointment, heartbreak. And then how do you know that that person is the one or not, right? And you just know. Well, a lot of good that does if you haven't developed the ability to hone your intuition and trust yourself very much, right? So
totally.
that idea of the one can be quite damaging and quite unhealthy and, kind of a myth. But on the other hand, if you say, well, F this, there's no such thing as the one, so I'm just going to compartmentalize all of my needs into individual bite-sized pieces and find a different person to meet each one of those needs that I have, well, you're going to end up in relationships with a lot of different people and not really very satisfied in any of them. And that's
Why wouldn't
exactly
they
what
be
happened.
satisfying? Actually, what is inherent in that they're not satisfying because they're not deep enough because you have to kind of spread it around?
Yeah, for me, that's exactly what happened to me. I ended up in a lot of relationships that all felt very superficial. I wasn't able to have the time to devote to any one of those people to really have a deep, fulfilling relationship with them. And it felt like, okay, I can get some needs met with this person, but not a lot. And then I have to give them the freedom to get their needs met by other people. So it's like we don't have time for each other. I'm burning out. I'm spinning my wheels. I'm like spending too much time trying to maintain all these relationships. And they're all kind of superficial anyway. And so that wasn't satisfying for me. And, this was a big problem. And it's particularly, one of the biggest dichotomies or one of the biggest problems I had was that I am a queer bisexual woman, right? I'm attracted to people of different genders, right? And, you know, I would have a partner that had one gender and I would, feel like something was missing, right? And I would think about, oh my God, I can never be with the other one again. And so I'm going to be miserable and I'm always going to be feeling like I'm missing something. And so I thought the solution to that was to have more than one partner, right? But
Mm-hmm.
that, that wasn't that wasn't working either. Because because I had the same problem of, the the relationships were not able to reach the level of depth. It felt a little bit compartmentalized. It felt like I couldn't really get enough time, to really be intimate with that person on a psychological level. And so that's another thing I've changed my mind on. I am in a monogamous relationship. I have met someone who I really believe meets as close to all of my needs as I can get. And I'm totally happy with that. I don't feel like anything is missing. I'm totally happy committing to that person because I get so many needs met and so much fulfillment from the level of deep intimacy that we can reach in relationship with each other that I don't need to seek out anyone else. And yeah, I mean, this is like a huge change for me after having spent so long thinking that this is impossible, but I don't think it's impossible anymore. And so, it might happen by surprise. Like I met my current partner and I was still in this mindset of like, oh, I can't have one person meet all of my needs. And, you know, I was basically smacked in the face with this realization that no, that's not true. Like this person can meet all of your needs or as close to 100% as you can possibly get. Maybe it isn't 100%, but it's pretty darn close. It feels
Yeah, it's the
close
big.
enough for me.
Yeah, I think that there is that difference. There's some people that are good enough, and then there's those people that are like, holy moly.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of times people, I don't know. I feel like holy moly is much more interesting and the only thing that I could possibly look for. I don't know.
Holy moly good? Like holy
Yeah,
moly.
like
Yeah.
wonderful. You know what I mean? Like the
Yeah.
thing where you're like, holy crap, this person, I mean, to complete me is a little bit of a, overstatement, but to a certain extent, it's like a true partner in every sense of the word.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, this is going to sound corny, but one of the biggest pieces, or basically the biggest piece that fell into place to help me with this realization that I wanted to commit to a monogamous relationship was that I can always meet my own needs. No matter what, no matter if I'm completely single and I have no friends, I can always find creative ways to get my own needs met by myself without relying on anyone. I don't need to ask anyone to meet my needs or to love me because I can give myself love and I can meet my own needs. And I know like a lot of people are going to say, oh, come on, Stephanie, that sounds so corny. Like, what are you talking about? I know, I get it. It's hard to realize, right? But you actually can give yourself so much fulfillment and so much love. And you don't need to rely on anyone else. And that's actually a very empowering message because you can take control of it, right? You can always provide love to yourself. So once I realized that, it's like, oh, wait a minute. I don't need to get my needs met with other people, right? I can meet a lot of my needs myself and then I don't feel like anything's missing even if I'm completely single. So that's like really important, right? It's really important to develop the skills at meeting your own needs and at loving yourself. And then you're ready for a relationship with another person that doesn't leave you feeling unfulfilled because you know that you can fulfill yourself.
I think we should all aspire to that, my friend. I don't know if everybody's always that good at meeting those needs, but I'm really happy that you have met somebody who basically, I don't know, to me, your relationship reminds me that love exists in
Oh,
its
thank you.
best form that you kind of hope for your friends. You have certain friends that end up with somebody and you're like, oh man, this guy. Right. But
Yeah, right.
but then you have other friends and you're like, oh my God, they're like a fairy tale wedding. And that, I don't mean to put pressure, because I know that certain situations are never, it's not possible to always be perfect. Right. But it sparks great joy to see your joy. And the same thing with Lauren, because people kind of struggle for that. And then when people come to me for advice, I don't know, I feel like I always err on the side of, do the thing that really, really inspires you and not just kind of settling. I don't know. Maybe
Yeah,
that's not good advice, but I think that that's the only way to do it. It's life. You got to go balls in, whatever.
absolutely. You deserve all the happiness you can get. Everyone does. And I think that, thank you very much for what you said about my relationship. I really appreciate that. And I would say to anyone out there who is feeling unfulfilled in relationships, even if they've tried dating a lot of different people and they still feel like something is missing, I would say really focus on self-love and how you can be happy just by yourself without the need for anyone else to fulfill you. And then maybe it's going to click into place.
Awesome. So is this anything else that we want to cover with this topic? I feel like this has been a pretty meaty show. We've gotten into a lot of deep stuff.
Yeah, it's been really meaty.
Okay, well, I think that's a good place to end the show. Steph, what do you think? Looking forward to the next one. What's going on for you?
Absolutely. I'm enjoying doing the show, and I'm looking forward to talking to our audience next. So you can find us at proofoflovecast.com. Send in your questions to our Q&A through our website and share the show with your friends.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Thanks once again to Vaultoro. We'll see you next time. Bye. Show me your heart. I know that it's beating. Tell me that you love me too. So I know your heart is true. 'Cause I need some proof of love. 'Cause I need some proof of love. 'Cause I need some proof of love. Thank you for listening to Proof of Love. Please follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Proof of Lovecast. More episodes can be found at proofoflovecast.com. And make sure you leave a review on iTunes and tell your friends. Proof of Love has been brought to you by CryptoMediaHub.com, a boutique marketing and PR agency for Bitcoin and beyond. You are listening to Proof of Love with Tatiana Moroz, Dr. Stephanie Murphy, and Lauren Kasovitz. This show may contain adult content, language, and humor and is intended for mature audiences. If that's not you, please stop listening. Nothing you hear on Proof of Love is intended as financial advice, legal advice, therapy, or really anything other than entertainment. Please take everything that you hear with a grain of salt. Oh, and if you're hearing us on an affiliate network, the ideas and views expressed on this show are not necessarily those of the network that you're listening on, or of any of the sponsors or affiliate products that you may hear about on the show.